So today I'm going to be transforming this nursery tree into a dwarf or a Shohin Bonsai. Hi, David Easterbrook here. Hello to you YouTubers out there, my fellow bonsai friends, and anyone else on the call here. I'm sorry that I haven't been posting many demonstrations, but I was so busy lately. I've been traveling extensively. I've been teaching out in Western Canada, in Winnipeg. Hi to all my Winnipeg bonsai friends out there. It was great working with you. And after that, I went to Calgary to see my sister out there. It's already cold out there. There was some snow on the ground. But yeah, there's bonsai is quite active even in Calgary and Edmonton. So hi to you guys too. Winter's coming. I know I've been getting a lot of questions about how to overwinter trees, sometimes specific trees, and I'm going to get around to them. I'll publish that real soon. But today's program is different. Today I want to work with a small nursery tree. It's a new species that I've just discovered at some local nurseries. It's not really a species. It's a dwarf cultivar of an eastern white cedar, which is very hardy. It's hardy here in Quebec and as far as south as the Carolinas. So it covers all of New England states right up into, I'd say, Pennsylvania and Michigan. So yeah, it's a very easy tree to grow, an eastern white cedar. And the real name is Thuja occidentalis, but this cultivar name is Primo, Primo. And it's a very, very dwarf foliage, very tight. It's a genetic dwarf. It looks a lot like Seka hinoki, which is witch's broom Camas. And the foliage resembles that, but this is obviously much hardier, a great tree to work with. So today I'm going to be transforming this nursery tree into a dwarf or a Shohin Bonsai. So we're going to get started working on it, and I think we can make a pretty cool tree out of it. Now, they do grow slowly, but not that slowly. I have a larger one here just to show you the difference. Okay. You can see that you can actually get a pretty thick trunk in there. And I bought some of these to make into larger size bonsai, mostly shokan or straight trunk style. But even this one could make a nice little show-in tree if I wanted to. Okay, I bought quite a few because I was planning on making a forest with them. I think they'll make a very nice forest because of the small, compact, tight foliage. And they're really easy to transplant too. They have a very fine, fibrous root system, and you can reduce it quite well, get trees close together, and really even get them in a very small show-in pot if you want to. So I'm going to work on the small tree today. I just wanted to show you that they do grow quite rapidly, and you can get larger size specimens. So we'll put this aside. We're going back to this one here. Now, first of all, we have to find the front of the tree. So if we look all around, we want some of the thicker branches on the sides here. And so we're going to be looking around for the best front. I think the best front is about right here, where I put this little blue marker. It's actually a little blue paintbrush here, so that you can see where the front is going to be. And so we're going to start by removing some of the excess foliage. It's actually too tall to be a Shohin tree. Shohin in Japan usually doesn't grow taller or should be kept shorter than 21 centimeters. In Europe and the West, 23 centimeters is often acceptable. In inches, that would be about 9 inches, 9.5 inches tall. So they have to be quite short and compact. So today we're going to actually shorten it and reduce some of the top. Okay, so we've started by removing a good part, as you can see, right here. Now, they do root quite easily. This is not the right time of year. It's quite cold outside here. It's been snowing today. But you can root them under lights if you want in a warm greenhouse. So now we're going to reduce the tree even further. We're going to start by removing some of the bottom branches. Now these grow very, very, the branches are very tight. They're very close together. So we can really remove quite a few branches because they're so compact that it permits us to really pick and choose. We have a great selection of branches to work with. I'm actually just basically alternating the branches along here, trying to choose the best ones and arranging it to have branches on both sides of the tree, and some smaller branches in the back and some in the front, but only starting about halfway up the tree. So as we go from the bottom branches to the upper branches, what we want to do is pick slowly thinner and thinner branches as we go up. So we'll be choosing slightly smaller branches here to create a more proportional look to the tree. Well, we've got some of them being removed here, starting to look good. We're starting to see the spaces now between what I call the main branches. And you have to leave spaces because these primary branches will actually grow and they'll get thicker and they'll form foliage pads. So we don't want them too close together, otherwise they'll shade out the lower branches, and that's a no-no. So yeah, we have to leave spaces between the branches. Now we're getting up to the top here. I'll just remove some smaller branches. Cut back a little more up here. And just thin this out. Yes, Shohin or very small size bonsai are very popular right now, not only here, but in Japan. Why? Probably because the population is aging. In Japan, very much so. Here in North America also, many bonsai people are getting older, and they're simply unable to lug around such big, heavy bonsai. So people want more compact trees. So this is a good size when you're just starting to a collection if you're slightly older. I'm going to start by wiring the branches now, but you must remember though that these trees are smaller and they're potted in very tiny pots. So the volume of soil in those tiny pots is quite limited. And they do need to be watered slightly more often during the hot summer months because they do dry out faster. So yeah, you really do need to check up on them a few times a day during the summer months. Otherwise, they can dry out quite quickly. Okay, just, yeah, beware of that. Okay, so we're going to wire down a few of the branches. And after that, I think we're going to be good to go. Really quite an exciting little tree. I'm quite pleased with the way it's turning out. Now, I'm wiring down the branches because it's nice when they're slightly below horizontal. It makes the tree look older. You don't have to wire so tightly. You do have to do one full turn around the trunk to anchor the wire. So that's what I'm doing now, is I just anchored it. So now I can go back to the first branch and wire that down slightly. So now you try to bring your wire almost right to the end so that you can actually, sometimes you have to gently raise the branch tip so that it won't weaken. It's not so bad with Thuja. This is a Thuja or eastern white cedar, but some of the trees really do need to be pines need to have the branch tips raised up slightly. So now we're going to the next branches higher up. And we're going to continue wiring the branches all the way to the apex, to the top of the tree. Now, the lower branches should actually be lowered to quite a steep angle. And then the upper ones should be slightly less angled. As we go towards the top, they'll become almost horizontal. Because the upper branches are actually not as old as the lower branches, so a lot of them do not droop as extensively as the lower branches. Okay. We've got some of them here. Now, we're going to use some slightly smaller wire. I'm actually using very tiny wire. This is, I'm going from 1.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter. It's the smallest they make in aluminum wire. It doesn't matter if the branches are on the same side, as long as you can do a full loop around the trunk so that the wire will be well anchored. That's all that counts. Yeah. So it's actually pretty delicate work, but it's what it takes to create good quality bonsai. You have to be ready to wire little branches. So yeah, I'm sure they're much easier. Shohin are much easier to wire than larger size bonsai. There's simply less branches, so you can finish them quite quickly. So that's a plus. That's a bonus when you're working on Shohin bonsai. And this tree, this dwarf cultivar, is certainly a good cultivar to work with, I find, because it is so compact. Even though it's a very tiny tree, we can make it look like a majestic, upright tree in nature. So we keep on going upwards. You always start at the bottom of the tree. If the trunk has to be wired into place, you'd start with the trunk and then start with the bottom branches and work your way all the way up to the top. So that's what I'm doing now. I've got big fingers for working on Shohin. Sometimes it's better if you have these delicate small fingers, but anyway, we get the job done. Actually, I did hundreds of Shohin bonsai when I was younger. Nowadays, I do not have so many. So, as I said, I am starting to get older, and I should be growing more of them. So, yeah, you'll probably see me making or creating more Shohin bonsai in the future. There's a demand for it, and also there's such a practical size. So, yeah. Also, it's cheaper to create Shohin because you can use smaller size trees when you're growing Shohin bonsai than large trees. Take many years to fatten up the trunk. With Shohins, you can actually get sometimes a fat trunk tree and cut to the first branch and create it from that. So you can get some pretty cool looking Shohin in no time at all. Okay, so we're almost up to the top. We've got a couple of branches here. To do, and the top, and then we'll be finished. I can even I repotted it last spring, so I could actually even put it into a small size bonsai pot to show you what it would look like. Not to fool around with the roots too much, but I can transfer it to a smaller pot if you'd like. Now we're doing the apex of the tree, the top part of the tree. It's so thick in there, hard to get the wire through it. Yeah. It's as I said, it's a dwarf cultivar called Primo, Primo. A very interesting small cultivar. And it works out very well as a Shohin. So I'll just place the branches now. And now we're going to lower them and have them facing upwards. There's just one little one here that a secondary branch that needs doing. So we'll wire that one also. I prefer to always wire secondary branches to other secondary branches on a main branch. I do not want to go from a secondary branch on one to a primary branch on the other side of the tree. I just don't like doing that because sometimes you have to unwire certain parts, and I find that it's awkward. It's very hard to unwire when you're going from secondary branches to primary branches. So there we go. There's some smaller ones up near the top that are too small actually to wire down. You'd need very, very, very fine copper wire to get them done. So we'll leave them to spring, and in spring we'll wire back the new growth once it starts to grow. Now, I will go and get a nice pot for this tree. I never choose the pot before completing the bonsai because you never know what style of pot and what size of pot you need. So it's very important, I find, to wait until you've finished your bonsai to choose the pot. So give me 1 sec. I'll go and get a pot and we'll be able to see the final result. This is like Alibaba's cavern. Almost all the pots up here are high quality pots. I'd say about 95% of them are Tokonami ware. Okay, and we're going to the end over here to choose some Shohin pots for the tree I'm working on. Now, what we do need is a nice little unglazed pot. This one is quite nice here. This will suit it very well. And also, we have some very nice little Shohin pots over here, and a few of them are quite valuable. They're Bigei pots, Bigei, Bigei, and they make a very smooth clay body. It's highly polished, very refined looking pots. So we're choosing a perfect pot for that little tree I just worked on down here. Well, this one is nice also. And maybe this one. Okay, we've got a choice of 3 unglazed, different colors. This is darker brown. This is a very beigey brown, and this is a chocolate brown. This one is a very formal pot, and this one is a slightly fancier pot. It has sort of a very simplified picture frame and cloud feet, so that could be nice too. Yeah, so we'll bring these downstairs, and one of these pots will be the ideal one for that tree. Up here. Here we go. This one be good. No, that's too small. This is a nice Bigei pot, but it's $170. That's a bit expensive for a first time repotting. Okay. I've got these pots here. One of them will do well. Too large, I think. Maybe this one. Okay. We've got quite a few. We have a good choice now. I've just come from upstairs where my pot storehouse is, and I came down with some pots, and size is deceiving because I put them in front of the tree and they're enormous next to the tree. I thought this one would work, and it's much too large. And if we look at this one, this last one here, we're getting there, but it is still much too large for the size of tree. It should only be about 2/3 the height of the tree. So that's too large also. Now I did bring some smaller ones down. This one here, but it's quite deep. And I think the tree would look as if it's drowning in this size of pot. So I think we're going to stop that. Now, Chamaecyparis, or I should say Thuja, have a very reddish bark, and it's really nice to put them in an unglazed pot that has a sort of a reddish color to it. So I brought down this nice Chinese pot, and it looks good, but the pot is still, it's a really the nice shape for the tree and everything, but the pot is much too large. So another one that's nixed. I did bring back down an oval, and I like the oval with it. It looks quite nice, and it matches the sort of the spherical shape of the tree, but again, it's quite deep, and I find the tree looks would look a little lost in this pot. So again, we're putting this one on the side. So now it leaves two pots that are roughly similar. There's this pale one, but this one here, this sort of grayish, halfway between beige and gray, is too large again. So finally, I don't want to put it in a small pot that's really small, because it's not really the right time of year to transplant. So I'm just going to switch it from this to the other without cutting any roots. Now this is a nice shaped pot. It's low. It's got a slightly reddish color to it, slightly formal, but the cloud feet are very, very, very shallow. It's got the shadow of a picture frame in it, but it's not decorated. So it's a nice, sober, very simple pot, and I think this pot is the best choice for this tree. So we're going to get this pot ready, and then I'll pot it up in this tree. Now, I'm going to anchor down my little screening. I get the screening at a dollar store. It doesn't have to be fancy. With some little, I anchor it over the holes with some wire that I'll loop into place. I always use old wire. I hate wasting copper or aluminum wire because it's expensive, and I don't like to waste money. So yeah, I save any little pieces for my repotting. And so here okay, we've got one side done, and we'll do the other side. Now there's many ways to attach the screening into the pot. I like these loops, this loop effect. This is the model that I always use. I find it's the most solid, the most stable of them all. It holds the screening down the best. If there's any excess wire under the pot, I remove it. Now, this is a very good quality, a high quality Chinese pot. It's not a tokoname pot. So it's got 4 anchoring holes. So we can actually put the wire through and hold the tree down with the anchoring holes. So that's really convenient. A lot of good high quality pots have the anchoring holes built in, and I like that. Okay. Now, as I said, the tree was repotted last spring, so that's about 8 or 9 months ago. So the original soil was all removed, and it was potted into a mixture of akadama and pumice. It's a pumice we get from France that is sold under the name of chabasai. It's a very high quality zeolite type of pumice, and the trees grow very well in it. So there's about 30% of pumice or chabasai and 70% akadama, which is a Japanese soil. Now, I have removed the tree, the anchoring wires on the bottom, and you can see that they have a very good quality fibrous root system. Thuja's an excellent root system. Because it was in the pot such a short time, the akadama is not broken down, and the chabasai or the pumice will not break down. So I'll just trim the roots a little bit, and we'll get it into its pot. These are all new fibrous roots that date back to the spring. The tree is very healthy. We've got a bit too much. Still a bit high, so I will remove some more of the soil here underneath. I don't like removing too many roots at this time of year. The tree is dormant though, which is an advantage. Okay, so we'll put the anchoring wires through the root ball so it'll hold well on both sides. Obviously, because this tree is repotted at this time of year, it should never be left to freeze during the winter. It'll be kept in the basically heated garage, but very low heat. It's about 5 degrees, 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, which is in the low 40s. It's probably around 44, 45 degrees. Now we have to off-center the tree. So I'm planting it slightly off-center on this side. And finally, I will get some other soil, some bonsai soil, some finer, and we'll just work it in with a little chopstick. We've got some fine akadama and chabasai. Again, the same proportions, about 20 to 30% chabasai and about 70 to 80% akadama. I usually do not like recycling bonsai soil or recuperating the bonsai soil and letting it dry in the sun and then reusing it, because generally what happens if one of the trees has a soil-borne disease, it can spread to all the other trees. So at the cost of soil, it's such a minimal cost that I don't think you should take any chances. At least I don't. I try to always use fresh bonsai soil, freshly purchased. Yeah, and I think that's the best you should do. That you should not try reusing old soil. Okay, so now we're working in this new bonsai soil. With akadama, it's not the best practice to really press down too hard, because you can crush the akadama. So if you have relatively good fingers, you can just apply a little bit of pressure to the top, and that should be enough. So we'll just reset some of the branches here. So there we are, a finished bonsai, a little Shohin bonsai a little tree starting a new life as a Shohin. So you can see it from every side. And now back to the front here. So, yeah. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration of how to create a Shohin bonsai. And as I say, I will be doing more YouTube courses in the coming future. Now that my trees are in for the winter, they're protected, I think I'll have more time to work with you guys. So thanks a lot, and stay tuned.